Hello students, welcome to the online e-learning classes presented by Southern Global School. I am FARUK Sheikh. Today I am going to teach you subject Social Science Standard 9 Chapter 2. Okay, before starting this lesson I want to ask you two questions and please you have to answer these questions in the comment section. First questions, which country used first time nuclear bomb? Second question, which countries, which cities became the victim of nuclear attack? Nuclear bomb attack. I am again repeating these questions. Which country used first time nuclear bomb? Second questions. Which two country became the nuclear attack victim first time? Okay, so please students answer these questions in the comment section. Okay, thank you. So after answering question all of you realize, so today I am going to teach you chapter First World War and Russian Revolution. Okay, so that question was I asked you that which country used, so America was used nuclear bomb. Okay, and it was attacked on Japan's two country Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was in the Second World War, but it's related to the World War. So that's why I asked this question. Okay, so let us start this lesson. Okay, so first second chapter of this social science, First World War and Russian Revolution. First World War, may hope all of you know. Anyone can answer me that when the First World War fought? Okay, so it was 1914 to 1918. That is the duration of the First World War and the Russian Revolution. Okay, so behind the reason of the First World War and the Russian Revolution, there was European countries. Okay, because of their greedy imperialism policy. Imperialism means to extend their empire all over the world. Okay, you will be also understand this word later on. So let us start this. The yearning to the Western European countries for expansion, the empire and acquire new territories, colony resulted in this country going to Asia and Africa. So this is the European countries. We all have learned about in the previous chapter that which European countries were came to India for the purpose of the trade, and after they acquired the most of region of the India and they started ruling over the India. Yes or no? Okay, so Portuguese, Spain, England, British, okay, Dutch, many of the European countries were came. So to extend their empire, these countries were established their colonies in Africa and in Asia. So thus they established their colony and expand their rule. Okay, so they all were established their colony and they extend their rule as it is. They were established their colony also in the our India country also. They were started the first for the war against Sirajuddaulah. They were established their fortress and all, and they extend their rule. Consequently, there arose a competition between European nations to establish colonies, and that is the why there was also competition between them, between all the European countries, British, Dutch, Portuguese. Okay, between them also that competition was started. Okay, and this competition was cutthroat competition. They can do anything to withstand against the any British country. Okay, so this greed for colonization among the Western European nation caused the economic, social and cultural ruin the Asian and African countries, and because of their greed, okay, they just wanted to develop their own country. Okay, they wanted to just make their country prosperous, and that is why at the coast of the Asian and African countries they developed their country, and they also ruined this Africa and Asian countries economically, socially and cultural. Okay, the result of on world politics was such that first world war, Bolshevik revolution in Asia etc took place. Okay, about the Bolshevik resolution it is also will going to learn further. Okay, and this is the reason that imperialism policy and established the colonies all over the world in the different countries of the world. Okay, this their greedy policy, and that caused the First World War. So, dear students, let us study about these details. So, Western European and colonialism in Asia and Africa. Asia, we live in the Asia. Our country India is also located in the Asia, and the Asia is the biggest continent of the world. Okay, the European countries wanted to expand their empire in Asia and Africa. Their greed for colonization did not spare even their neighboring countries. Okay, and their greed वो इतने लालचू थे कि their neighboring countries colony also they cannot spare, यानी कि वो अपने नेबर यानी कि यूरोपियन कंट्रीज की अगर कोई कॉलोनी वहाँ पे एस्टेब्लिश हो तो उसको बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकते थे. Okay, they did not spare even their neighboring countries colony. Okay, Spain had taken control over Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg. Now what happened, that's that time European country also they were to control over European countries. They were also established the rule over the European countries. They make them slave also. Okay, so Spain taken control over the Netherlands, Belgium and the Luxembourg. Later on some of their provinces were captured by France, and after they were captured by the France. So when the Portuguese did not died without an heir यानी कि बिना without son, he died without son. So that is why Portugal came under the rule of Spanish king cause of his blood relation. So now the Portugal and Spain both have the family relation, blood relation. That is why Portugal came under the rule of the Spanish king. Now this also policy they were established in India. Okay, Dalhousie annexation policy. Yeah, many of the province of the Indian princely state were also annexed by the Dalhousie under the policy of any kingdom any king die without heir or son. So for 6 decades, the monopoly of established colonies in non-European countries was with Spain. Monopoly. Here is the word monopoly. So monopoly means it is considered in it is ijaro, means the right. So the only Spain has the right for 6 decades to establish colonies in non-European countries. Non-European countries means which countries are in the Asia and the Africa or other in the other continent except Europe. So in these all non-European country there was a monopoly. Okay, only the right has the Spain. Okay, similarly Italy and German state became the victim of greed of France and the Austria, and this is the imperialism policies. They wanted to establish the colonies, and another countries also became the victim, like Italy, Germany state became the victim of greed of France and the Austria when the European power were tightening their grip over the Asian and African nation. Many of the European nations which had become free. Now while the European countries they wanted to tighten their grip, they wanted to clutch their very tight over the Asian and African nation. That time they could not focus on their European countries, and that time many of the European nations which had become free. Following the footstep England made by many Afro-Asian nations their colony. Okay, and they were follow the footstep of England. England also was the slave by their own European countries. It was under the rule, but England became the independent. And the following footstep of the England, any other countries, European countries also became the free. Following the footstep England and made many of Afro-Asian nations their colonies. Now let us see how did they establish their colonies in India. So colonialism in Asia. Okay, so the after strengthening its grip over India, England expanded its empire in Sri Lanka. So first of all, the European were came to the India for the trade purpose, but after they knew that Indian kingdoms entirely okay, internally they were not strong. There is so much weakness there. There's a lack of power. So that is why they established their rule, okay, by dividing king, by coax them, okay, by giving them the bribe. They took control over the Indian country, and after strengthening its grip over the India, England expanded its empire in the Sri Lanka, Myanmar. It is known as the Burma, Singapore, and the Malaysia. These countries also were under the rule of the European countries after the India. England entered China also. Now see that China also was not accept. Okay, China also became England also and entered to the China. But China was famous that time for the opium. Here is the but due to the opium trade, opium it is a one type of addicted things substance. Okay, now in the modern time that we are calling that drugs. Okay, drugs is the very dangerous, but drugs is made from different chemicals. Okay, and opium is a addicted thing substance which is made from the plant. Okay, so that is why. So but due to the opium trade between England and China, there were wars. England wanted opium. Okay, now opium is a very addictive things, but once the person eat it, it becomes very powerful. Okay, so that is why they were giving this opium to their employees. Okay, so they can work very forcefully. So that is why England wanted the opium from the China, and that is why there was a wars between the England and China 1839 to 1842, which came to be known as opium wars in the history. And this war between the England and China 1839 to 1842, it was came to be known as opium wars in history. Now China lost this war. This opium war was lost by the China. China was defeated by the England, and thereby lost five of its ports. England where England could carry on their trade and thus expand their empire. Now with this war, according to the treaty, China also lost its five ports, and England can use only these ports. England where England could carry on their trade and thus expand their empire. Now, taking advantage of China's weakness, now China became the weakened. Most of the province of the China, only the over the five ports were captured by the England, but other province were under the China rule. But China was become the weakened. So, taking the advantage of this China's weakness, the Japan, Russia, Germany, France, Belgium, and America also acquired trade and political right. They also established that trade in the China, and also they acquired the political rights in the China to establish their trade. Okay. Now, enormous oil resources in the desert region of West Asia attracted the European to establish colonies there. Enormous, बहुत ही ज़्यादा, plenty, too much. Okay. So the enormous oil resources in the desert region of West Asia attracted the European to establish colonies there. Okay, in the many of the Asian countries in the West Asia, okay, they have the enormous resources of the oil, petroleum, and that is why European were attract influenced by these countries, and the England, Germany, Russia, and America established all oil companies in Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, and made effort to take care of their own interest. Okay, they were established their companies in the Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, and made effort to take care of their own interest. Means they were established their companies, but by establishing their companies, these countries with these West East Asian companies did not get any profit. The profit only got by European countries, okay, and the America, the England, Germany, Russia, and the America. Okay, and they was only just effort to take care of their own interest. Now, after as it is, when they established their rule, their colonies in the Asia, as it is they also established their colony in the Africa continent also. So who were the first to establish their colony in the Africa? So the Dutch established their colony for the first time at the end of 15th century in the South Africa, after the England and France established their colony in Cape and Algeria in North Africa respectively. One by one, first were the Dutch. They were established first their colonies in the 15th end of the 15th century in the South Africa, and after this later on the England and the France established their colonies in Cape and in the Algeria in the respectively North Africa. The vast province of Africa seemed quite suitable for acquiring raw material and selling ready product post industrial revolution. Now the Africa for them it was very good location by for the raw materials, and also there was a processed ready product. They were also can sell their product in the Africa. So it was again the product post industrial revolution, means which products are already ready they were selling this product in the Africa. They also established this policy in India also. They were buying the raw material at very cheap price. Okay, and then they were selling the finished product in the India very costlier. Okay, so because of which European countries competed to establish colonies. Okay, and that is why European colony they have the competition to establish their colony. Now King Leopold of Belgium seized the vast province of Congo and established his rule. Now King Leopold, he seized the Belgium, and okay, the King Leopold of Belgium, he seized the vast province of the Congo and established his rule. England established its colonies in Egypt, some province of the Africa state and some of the South Africa. Okay, as it is that King of the Belgium, he seized Congo. Then England established its colony in the Egypt. Egypt is the well known for the its pyramid. Some province of East Africa and some South Africa, and also England also acquire also the capture and also establishes colonies in the East Africa and also in the South Africa. France established its colony in Tunisia, Morocco, and West Africa province. France established its colony in Tunisia, Morocco, and West Africa. Germany established its empire in some province of East and West Africa. See, all the European countries they were established on the different province of the South Africa. Okay, Italy captured the African province around the Red Sea. Spain and Portugal also seized some province of Africa. Okay, they were seized this, means in this seized province only the country which has seized that area they can rule, they can do trade. No any other European country can do trade there. Okay, so the different, so Spain, Portugal also seized the some province of Africa. A conference for the European nation was held in Bahrain. Now they were also wanted to do that trade peacefully, because there was a competition between the European country, cutthroat competition, and for doing trade in that country they can do anything. Okay, as it is in the beginning when the Britishers were came to the India, so that time Portugal were rule over, so that time they did not get the permission for the trade, because there was under the rule of the under the control of the Portugal. So different African territories were okay. So a conference of the European nation was held in the Berlin in 1884 to 1885 in the midst of the competition to establish colonies. Now the different African territories were divided among the European nation at the end of the conference. Okay, different African territories were divided among the European nation. They were divided themselves. They were thinking this is their fathers, This is the wealth. As it is, they were divided. Africa divided European countries. Can see. Okay, so the different African territories were divided among the European nations at the end of the conference. Thus, the colonial domains of different European nations was established over the entire Africa. Now, whole Africa was under the rule of the European countries. So, the European nations, they were divided these territories. So, while on one hand, the greedy European nations were trying to colonize various Asian African territories. On the other hand, Germany and Italy had completed two process of its respective political unification. Okay, now Germany and the Italy, this is the two country you will be learn about the further the Germany and Italy. Most important these countries. Their importance is very role in the world war. Okay, so while that greedy European nations were trying to establish their greed, their grip more powerful, okay, various Asian and African territories. Other side, on the other hand, Germany and Italy had completed to the process of its respective political unification. They wanted to establish their own politics activity, their own politics in their country. Thus, the unified Germany plunged into the competition in industrialization, commercialization, and the colonization. And that is why now Germany also plugged into the competition of industrialization. Germany also established its many of the industries in the different countries, and it's also selling that goods finished product in the other country at the cheaper price than the European nation, another England and the France, and also it established its colonies. Thus, these quickly changing global phenomena had exploited some of these countries politically, economically, and socially, due to which their development had stopped. This had led to First World War. Now, Germany was the most important. He played the most important role for the First World War. Okay, Germany also wanted to arose as a one powerful nation, and that is why Germany also plugged into this is the that trade. It's like a industrialization, commercialization, and the colonization, and that is the why there was a changes in the countries politically, economically, and socially, and due to the which their development had stopped, and this had led to the First World War. So the other country development was stopped because Germany was selling the finished products very cheap price, and the other countries were selling their finished product very costlier price, and that is why their development had stopped, and this is lead to the First World War. Okay, so now dear students, that you all have studied about the colonialism in the Asia and in the Africa. It is also in other word we can see that imperialism. Imperialism means extend the empire. Okay, so here is the I'm going to play one video, so you'll be realize that how they establish their colony and what is the reason behind the establishing the colonies. Okay, and what was the effect of the colonialization, and it was also affected for the First World War. Okay, so here is a video for you.
Colonialization and imperialism. The Industrial Revolution in Europe ushered in an era of machine-made goods and scope for markets. In order that the never-ending demand for raw materials and also markets where these goods could be sold at cheap prices, the European countries started their quest for territorial expansion. Over a period of time, this turned out to be a competition as to who could colonialize and govern better. The voyages of discovery undertaken at this time also propelled the need to occupy territory which had huge natural resources waiting to be exploited. The bonus was cheap labor also available. This was the background with which imperialism started. What does imperialism mean? Imperialism is when a mother country takes over a smaller nation or colony for political, social, and or economic reasons. Imperialism can be broadly divided into two phases, namely Old Imperialism and New Imperialism. Basically, there was not much difference between the two, but the policy of acquiring control was slightly different. In the initial phase of imperialism, the European countries found new trade routes and established factories in the places they had trade with. Slowly, on the pretext of safeguarding these factories, they built fortresses and also gained power with the local leaders. By dividing the kings amongst themselves, they took over the territory for rule and soon became masters. This policy they adopted in North and South America, Far East, Asia, and Africa. They exploited the raw materials and cheap labor available and took it for the thriving industries. The finished goods were again sent to the colonies, as they were called, and sold there at exorbitant prices, thus ruining the local industries. In the age of new imperialism, they established vast empires and set up administrative units for the benefit of the mother nation. This was motivated by the economic needs of the Second Industrial Revolution that had taken place in Europe during this period and had created drastic changes in many industries, and raw material for feeding the new demand became necessary. What were the efforts of this policy of colonial expansion? It had both positive and negative effects. The positive effects were new modes of transportation and communication, hitherto in the colonies, now became a reality. Good governance based on the rule of law came into existence. Setting up of judicial system also was a benefit for the colonies. On the flip side, these colonies were exploited thoroughly and caused a drain of wealth from the poorer nations. Probably the worst effect of this was causing the First World War.
Okay, so dear students, you all have understood very well this video, I hope. Now let us see the exercise. So what you have to write in the exercise? So here is the given, the right short note colonialism in the Asia. Okay, this is the short note. You have to write short note colonialism in the Asia. Second question, discuss the process of establishment of colonies in the East Europe, Asia and the Africa. In the East Europe, Asia and the Africa. So what was the process? You have to write this question answer point wise. The process of the colonies in the East and Europe, Asia, they were established. Okay, how did they were established? Okay, so I hope all of you understood. This is the lesson. Okay, bye.